te vengo a cantar mi copla. Ando llena de ilusiones y quiero besar tu boca. Quiero decirte cositas que traigo dentro del alma, pero como son bonitas, quiero decirlas con calma. Yo no sé si vengas tú, yo no sé si vaya yo, pero has de sentir mis besos y yo he de sentir los tuyos. Hemos de quedarnos presos a la luz de los cocuyos. Te quiero mirar bonita, sin penas y sin orgullos, y quiero echarme en tus brazos a la luz de los cocuyos. ¿Cuántas noches de tu vida habrás pasado conmigo, contando las estrellitas y solo Dios te testigo? Siempre con la cara al cielo, cobijados por la luna, contando las estrellitas, decirles una por una. Yo no sé si vengas tú, yo no sé si vaya yo, pero has de sentir mis besos y yo he de sentir los tuyos. Hemos de quedarnos presos a la luz de los cocuyos. Te quiero mirar bonita, sin penas y sin orgullos, y quiero echarme en tus brazos a la luz de los cocuyos.
My name is Adrian Perez. I am from El Paso, Texas, and I'm the harpist for the 2021 Mariachi Spectacular, the Albuquerque All-Star class, or All-Star performing group. Today, we're going to be going over A la Luz de los Cocuyos. I'm going to take some time to break out the harp from the armonía section and kind of go over what the combination of the guitarrón music and armonía music review, and how that essentially creates the harp parts. Given that there's no music for the harp on this particular arrangement. So right off the bat, the song title is A la Luz de los Cocuyos. It's a José Alfredo Jiménez song. The arrangement is by Maestro Rigoberto Alfaro. We are in the time signature of 3/4 and the key signature of C major. Let's see, some other important tips regarding the harp. So this particular harp is a harp that has levers on every string. So if you do have levers on every string, you're probably going to want some alternate tuning. My harp, I use the key of E flat as my baseline tuning, and it's essentially the diatonic scale. E flat, F, G natural, A flat, B flat, C, D, E flat, right? So because we're in the key of C, and you got to be familiar with key signatures, right? Circle of fifths and those kinds of things. We can do a quick run through of that, actually. So, yeah. So essentially your order of keys is, or order of sharps is F, C, G, D, A, E, and B. And then your order of flats is the backwards of that. So it's B, E, A, D, G, C, F. With that said, I like to use the key of C as our kind of launching point, I guess you could say. So we're in the key of E flat. That basically means that you have these three flats on your harp. So to get to the key of C, you'll need to sharp the A flat, right? A flat will go up to A natural. Your E flat will go up to an E natural, and then your B flat will go up to a B natural. And that'll put you in the key of C, where everything is natural, which is the song that we're in, or the key that we're in for this song. So with that said, like I said, I'll raise the A flats, I'll raise the E flats, and then I'll raise the B flats. And that puts us in C major. So that's kind of step one of how to get into tuning for this particular song, and that'll provide all the fundamentals of where your notes will come from in regards to this arrangement and song. Some other items related to the key of C. So if you see here, I have Roman numerals. Essentially, the uppercase Roman numerals are major, and the lowercase numerals are minor, and this little circle means diminished. So in the key of C, what I just played, right, there's chords assigned to that. So essentially what that means is you have a C major, you have a D minor, an E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished, and C. Let me erase this real quick. So those are essentially the chords that you have available to you for this particular song. So from the chord perspective, another option that you have to play around with the song fundamentally is inversions, right? So in harp, there is a root inversion, second inversion, and first inversion. And essentially what it means, so each chord that you have is broken up into three notes: the first degree, the third degree, and the fifth degree of that particular chord. So in the key of C, you have C being your 1, right, which is this guy here. And then you have E being your 3, which is this guy here. And then you have your 5th, which is G. So these three notes will end up making up a chord, the chord of C, right? So with the chord of C, you have three inversions that you can play for a major. So your root will start with your first degree, which is C, E, G, which is this guy right here. And since we play with 4 fingers, you have C, E, G, C. Your first inversion, you raise everything up a third. So then you have E, G, C, E, right? So that's this guy right here. Your second inversion is the 5th degree, which is G, C, E, G. So in essence, what they sound like is, right, root, first, second, and then the root an octave higher. Another thing too with that is you can start getting into the chord progressions of this song. So if you start looking at the armonía music, you notice that you have a C, you have an F major, a D minor 7, A minor 7's in there, G minor 7. So they're all manipulations of basic chord structure for this particular song. And same concept applies, right? If you go to an F chord, you have your 3 inversions where your root position is basically your first degree. So if you were to transpose that, you have F, and then you have the same 3. Except instead of your 1 being C, it's now the note that you're on, right? So you have F, A, and C. And so the same concept applies. You have, all right, your root position, and then you take it up a third, everything. First inversion, second inversion, another third up, and then you're back at the same kind of concept for what we just went over for the C chord. So you can do that with all the chords. For the purpose of this video, I'm not going to go over every single chord, but the way you would figure it out is it's the 1, 3, 5 starting on the first note of the chord. In the case of D minor 7, so we're in the key of C, right? You'd have D minor 7, so that means there's going to be 4 voices that are played together. So you have D as your 1, F, natural because we're in the key of C, and A, right? And the 7th, so it's D, E, F, G, A, B, C is your 7th. So that makes up your 7th chord right there. All right. Same concept for A minor 7, E minor 7, G minor 7. So essentially the gist of it is all those chords are within the key of C that I just showed you how to tune into. So that's some basic chord theory. Some other aspects of the song that we might want to go through before you play it is the time signature. It's essentially 3/4, which means there's 3 quarter notes in one measure. So 1, 2, 3, reset, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And if you look at the guitarrón music, it's essentially a combination of one measure is 3/4, and then the other measure is 6/8, which is a subdivision of 3/4. So you'd feel and hear something like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So they're subdivided, just a different feel every other measure, sorry. That's pretty standard of this particular style of song, which is a huapango. Also shares a lot of rhythmic characteristics with son jalisciense. Some other parts of this song that we can go through that are helpful before even starting to play is the mapping of the song. So let's see. So we would start the song. First measure, if you notice, it's not a full 3/4 measure. It's a pickup. It's a quarter note or a quarter rest pickup. So it's 1, 2, 3, 1, boom, straight into the song. So you would play all the way through from measure 1. Next line is measure 8 to rehearsal mark 1, which is a little box with the number 1 on it. You'd play that through to measure 16. Play that all the way through, and I'm looking at the guitarrón music. Play that through rehearsal mark 2, all the way go to rehearsal mark 3. Play through to rehearsal mark 4, play through to rehearsal mark 5. Play all the way through to measure 58 at the first ending. And if you notice, there's a bar with 2 lines and 2 dots, right? So that's the ending part of the repeat, essentially. So from there, measure 58, you would jump back up to the top, which if you notice is another clue to where this song starts. And it's the front end of a repeat sign, which is the same thing you see on measure 57, but flipped backwards. So you would start back the song from the top, play all the way through rehearsal mark 1, play through rehearsal mark 2, 3, 4, 5, and on measure 56, instead of going to the first ending, you're going to jump to the second ending. And you play all the way through measure 64, and pretty much that's the end of the song after that. So the mapping isn't too wild. Jumping over the armonía music, same concept, right? You see the first measure has the front end of a repeat. Play all the way through rehearsal mark 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Get to measure 54, 55, 56. Take the first ending. There's the second part, the back end of a repeat. And you jump back to the beginning of the song. Do the same thing over rehearsal mark 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Measure 54, 55, 56. Instead of playing the first ending, you play the second ending and play it all the way through to the end of the song. And you're pretty much done. So those are some core elements, right, of the song in order to get an idea of what you should be playing before you start playing. Time signature, key signature, chord structure, and mapping of the song. Those are, to me, what are the fundamental elements of what you want to understand before you start to attempt this song. And also chord theory. So some other points that I want to make is, in regards to chord theory, one of the helpful things that you can do is outline the chords like I did here, C, F, and D minor 7, for all the chords in the armonía section. And what you'll find is that the guitarrón parts are actually outlines of those chords. So you can start to see the correlation between the two as you go through and play stuff. You'll notice that if you're on a particular note of bass parts, they correspond to another particular chord, right? That's, if you map it back to the armonía section, it's the same note, just in a singular pool. So that's one thing that starts to come to light right away as you start to understand chord theory and how the interaction between armonía and guitarrón works. Yeah, so we can go through it real quick. So right off the bat, let's do the guitarrón part. So we have, right? So 1, 2, 3, res. Right, so you can either play together the chord with the bass, or you can just play the bass and decide where to fill in the mix of the two. So some parts to keep in mind too is, depending on your skill set, you can either do that, what I just mentioned, and tie in the bass and the armonía together, or you can start to fill in, which is kind of more a traditional type approach to playing the harp. So the huapango is essentially 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if you notice, I'm filling in between. So it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right, and the rhythm is doing. Right, obviously this song has a little bit more complicated rhythms, but essentially that's the basis of the rhythmic part. So, so I'll go over the bass part through and identify any trouble spots that we might come across, given that these are written for guitarrón, not essentially harp, but we can work through those. So 1, 2, 3, res. Eighth res. Ay, amor de mis. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right here on measure 25, 26, 27, 28, you have some B flats, which if you have a lever harp aren't in your key signature. So what you can typically do is omit those, because if you play a B natural against with the guitarrón playing a B flat, it's going to sound pretty bad. So what I would do in this sense is just wait for them to play that part, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and back on the C, which is still within your range of tuning. Otherwise, you run the risk of playing two notes that are not compatible together for this song. Essentially, what it sounds like is you'd get that sound if you play that note. So yeah, let's go back to rehearsal mark 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 3 measure, 4th measure, 5 measure, 6 measure, triad. Rehearsal mark 3. Boom. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Rehearsal mark 4. Rehearsal mark 5. So one of the interesting things about rehearsal mark 5 on the measure 46 is it's an outline of a G7 actually. So you have G, F, T. It's not a typical bass line because it's arranged. So they have some extra fun stuff for people to kind of pick up on. So if you look at the armonía music, you have a G7 chord, right, on measure 40, 46, which I just mentioned is the outline right on the bass side. Right, otherwise you would play G, B, D, or D, G, or something like that. So that's a peculiar part. So rehearsal mark 5. 1, 2, 3. C, A minor chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 56. And then back to the top. Digga, 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 bum, bum. Same thing. 1. Second ending, B flat. I wouldn't do anything there because you're going to get that weird sound again, right? So measure 63 and 62. Don't play the B flat. Let the guitar do that. And then you jump back on it on 64. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's essentially the end of the song at that point. So if you notice, I was just filling in the time opposite of the bass notes with the chords that I see here in the armonía section. So, for example, so that's kind of my approach to Wapanos, is that way you have a more complete and full sound on the harp. And that obviously comes with, time and practice of doing exercises together with the harp and then doing them, filling in the sections. And you can use the inversions, essentially, that I went over here. Some good exercises for that are arpeggios. You get 2 root inversions. Descending arpeggio. And then round arpeggio, which is a combination of the two. So then when you start splitting them apart, you can do one going up, you can do the other one going down. Depending on how much you practice that, you can fill in a lot of the rhythmic parts that I was going through based on your hand and finger independence, which, I can't really go much into detail here because it takes a lot of time to practice that. But essentially, those are the fundamentals of how you would accomplish that over time. Some other parts of this song that might be necessary to go through. Mapping key. Yeah, so I think in my opinion, those are the fundamental elements of what you would need to accomplish some sort of level of proficiency regarding this song relative to harp. And that's an example of how I would approach playing and learning this music using a combination of the guitarrón and armonía parts that are provided to you via PDF. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it's useful to you. Thank you.
noches te vengo a cantar mi copla. Ando llena de ilusiones y quiero besar tu boca. Quiero decirte cositas que traigo dentro del alma, pero como son bonitas, quiero decirlas con calma. Yo no sé si vengas tú, yo no sé si vaya yo, pero has de sentir mis besos y yo he de sentir los tuyos. Hemos de quedarnos presos a la luz de los cocuyos. Te quiero mirar bonita, sin penas y sin orgullos, y quiero echarme en tus brazos a la luz de los cocuyos. Ay, amor. ¿Cuántas noches de tu vida habrás pasado conmigo, contando las estrellitas y solo Dios de testigo? Siempre con la cara al cielo, cobijados por la luna, contando las estrellitas, decirles una por una. Yo no sé si vengas tú, yo no sé si vaya yo, pero has de sentir mis besos y yo he de sentir los tuyos. Hemos de quedarnos presos a la luz de los cocuyos. Te quiero mirar bonita, sin penas y sin orgullos, y quiero echarme en tus brazos a la luz de los cocuyos.